Hey, what's up, everyone? Vito Lasprugato here, certified nutritionist and exercise specialist with specialty certifications in fasting and herbology. Today, I'm going to talk about extended fasting, also known as periodic fasting. One of the main questions I receive, as many people do follow me on social media, is, how am I to sustain my extended fasting protocols? Because sometimes I long fast from anywhere from 5 to 15 days, and typically I do that twice a year. Through my courses, we have all types of fasting: 5-2 fasting, 16-8 intermittent fasting, and then we have what's called periodic or extended fasting. Now, I'm not a doctor. You should always consult with your doctor when related to any type of fasting protocols, especially extended fasting. However, with doctors' consultation as well, with my clients, I design fasting protocols safely and effectively for the individual. Um, so I'm going to bring it up quite a bit on the recent studies relating to, and especially in the last couple of years, relating to extended fasting, periodic fasting, and how they relate to the benefits of the body. And it's quite fascinating the extensive history we have with even scientists and doctors in the long past, even 100 years ago, talking about fasting regimens and their customary responses to the scientific literature at the time and how it was questionable. And now we have the relative data and peer-reviewed studies with the discovery of autophagy to be able to relate all this data to that they were referring to when it came to their fasting protocols in the past, and many of which did it themselves and not just with patients. So I wanted to bring up this one fasting study that I find is very, very extensive, conclusive, included over 1,000 participants. It was a full 1 year study. Very, very reputable clinic in Germany did it, and they did it based upon the Buchinger method. If you're unfamiliar with that, it's one of those protocols I utilize significantly for formulation purposes when designing fasting protocols. I don't use it solely because we have so much evidence out there right now showing the necessity for customization per person. So to kind of put a blanket statement on, this one method, I think is, in my personal opinion, is would be a mistake for the individual, but it's still a great reputable fasting protocol with certain tweaks and formulations. So I'm going to be bringing up a quick article real quick that I thought was very, very relative on some history on the Buchinger method. Forgive me, Buchinger. So therapeutic fasting, according to Dr. Otto Buchinger. Let's move on to therapeutic fasting according to Buchinger. So Otto Buchinger was a German doctor and philosopher who began suffering from severe rheumatism in the joints in 1917. So in 1919, he began a 3-week fasting cure in Germany with his colleague Gustav. The cure was successful in treating his rheumatism, and from then on, Buchinger was fascinated by alternative naturopathy and fasting. A year later, he founded his own fasting clinic in Germany. In 1935, he published The Therapeutic Fasting Cure, which is still in print to this day. And the idea behind the Buchinger method was fasting activates the body's own power to heal itself. And that was his theory back then. And now we have all the science and validation and data and the discovery of autophagy to be able to back up that validation as well. A diet for the soul is what he had claimed as well, which is why I think a lot of people, including my clients, when they go through extended fasting protocols, they're always mentioning, including myself. I've been fasting for about 20 years now. And for those of you who are new to my profession and my story, it significantly helped reverse a lot of my health conditions, very, very significantly. So there's always this heightened state of consciousness, awareness, mindfulness, the ability to tap into, I think, the psyche a lot more. And these are the claims that I think a lot of people make when it comes to extended fasting, which why I think is very relevant to the historical impact it has with religion and spiritual practices as well. People find they're more in tune with themselves intuitively, instinctually, and for those who connect to it spiritually, as well. So according to Buchinger, the therapeutic fasting allows the body to cleanse itself and activate its its own powers of self healing, not only on a medical level, but also on a psychosocial and spiritual level. Buchinger also talked about a diet for the soul. During fasting, he recommended listening to music, reading, engaging in art or meditation, something I do significantly every day, let alone when I am doing my extended long fast. It's something I make sure I do more of, typically 2 to 3 times a day as well. It really, really impacts the effectiveness, the efficiency of the fast itself, how you're feeling, which you can be feeling obviously great during it if you're doing it right. And therefore the potential effects it has on the body and the mind for the purpose of the fasting as well. Taking long walks in nature should help clear your mind and free your thoughts. Buchinger therapeutic fasting also included knee treatments, massages, forms of gymnastics to keep the muscle tissue intact and contracting, and so forth, and even saunas to boost the circulation and metabolism and to promote health and well-being. This also prevents proteins in the muscles from breaking down, and it sounds like a spa break, but it isn't, according to this. According to Buchinger, fasting doesn't work without colonic cleansing. So, as we know, as you should know, that when we are into detoxification enzymatic activity, that the body is going to be purging through deeper cellular tissue, fat cells. Those receptor sites on the cells are detaching molecules that have been stored in that fat cell because it's a type of toxin to the vital organs of the body. So as this is being released, it's very, very important that we are excreting it. And we got to make sure that our intestines, which are going to have the heavier load of that excretion, make sure they are constantly emptying. So Buchinger begins with a 1 to 2 day preparation phase called the relief days. At the beginning of the first day of fasting, the colonic cleansing takes place. For this, fasters take 30 to 40 grams of Glauber's salt dissolved in 1 liter of water, which they should drink within 20 minutes. Now, with my fasting protocols, it's actually a little bit different than that, and that's why the Buchinger method, while it's very beneficial, I think there's some little loopholes in that, and it's really got to be catered to the individual as well. But this is still a really great fasting protocol. The process is repeated several times during the fasting period. I totally agree with that. Very, very important. An enema every 2 days probably isn't everyone's cup of tea, but when you consider that almost 80% of all diseases arise in the intestine, a colonic cleanse certainly couldn't do you any harm. Buchinger's model of therapeutic fasting is still considered a classic among fasting methods. It's just a super reliable, great scientific protocol. According to the Buchinger method, fasters should avoid all solid foods. That's quite obvious. We need to shut off the digestive system, the involuntary contractions of those muscles themselves are super important to make sure they're fully relaxed, and therefore liquids are the only way to be able to really satisfy that extended long fasting protocol, making sure that the full potential is in place for the mechanisms. The fasting period can last 5 days or more. So typically that's what we're seeing. Now, the study I'm going to be bringing up soon says at least 2 days up to 21 days, but I've seen in my own personal observation for my body, myself, and clients that 5 days is necessary when you're trying to get into the deeper autophagy, the immune regeneration, and more so during the refeeding period. That's where we'll see most stem cell regeneration places take place. Let's see here. On one point, Otto Buchinger encountered criticism for his conventional medicine from a scientific point of view. It was doubtful whether his terms purification and detoxification are justified. Buchinger defines waste products as metabolic byproducts, which are deposited in the body, which can cause diseases. However, many experts are of the opinion that the body eliminates these metabolic byproducts itself through the kidneys, intestines, lungs, and skin. Yes, why can't both of those be true? In my opinion, they are true, and we have scientific validation saying they're both true. On a daily regimen, all of our organs, intestines, kidneys, lungs, liver, etc., they're constantly doing their job, and they should be doing their job depending on how well our nutrition is established and the methodologies built for the body. As you know, I have a customized proprietary 6-step methodology process that is meant to optimize all these 11 major organ bodily systems to make sure that they're revved up and performing at their utmost potential. But they're always doing that. They're always performing their functions of these metabolic byproduct detoxification processes. But why can't we bring into the question, wait, what if they become overloaded, right? So that's what we're really seeing when now we have the validation of that fatty liver disease. That's obviously an overloading of certain types of imbalances or toxic activity within the body, whether it be a higher glucose diet, poor diet, toxic materials in the food, whether it be the bad kinds of fat, omega 6s, etc. There's so many reasons for that. So I think both of those statements are true. See your doctor before fasting, as it states here. I believe that for therapeutic fasting to be successful, it should be overseen by doctors or therapists who are qualified to provide fasting support. I've gone through the International Therapeutic Association for certified fasting. However, I always obviously have to recommend default to consult with your doctor. Since 1996, this is fascinating, and this is why doctors can prescribe fasting to treat disease. Doctors have been able to obtain the Doctor of Fasting certificate from the Medical Association for Therapeutic Fasting and Nutrition. It is undisputed that this fasting method can be used both as a preventative health measure and to treat certain diseases. According to Otto Buchinger, the optimal fasting period is 2 to 4 weeks, taking into account each individual's specific health issues. Guys, super important. This is why the mass diet approach or just someone following the intermittent lifestyle, I get it. If you're taking a step forward with your wellness and your wellness journey, more power to you. I'm grateful that you're doing it, and more people are doing it and resonating with it. It's something we all need, especially nowadays. But taking the smart approach really is that customization factor, working with someone like me, for instance, or a functional medicine doctor or a naturopathic doctor. Someone's going to do a true assessment on you, your 11 major bodily systems, your body, your health history, genetics, family history. All that should be taken into consideration, and nothing short of your fasting protocol should be the same. The Medical Association for Therapeutic Fasting and Nutrition recommends planning a standard duration of 7 to 10 days for a therapeutic fasting cure, plus one preparation day, super key, and followed by 3 days to normalize eating behavior. Even more important, the amount of stories and people talking to me or sending me messages or emails, not my clients, of course, saying, hey, when I've tried this fasting or extended fasting, I got really sick because I ate this and too much of this or whatever. And without a doubt, guys, you got to make sure you're going about this safely and effectively. The full formulation is super important, especially with the type of risk that you can have with your body. And of course, the benefits, are so significant that everyone should be doing this. Every human body is built for this, but you should go about it, as smartly as possible. All right, I'm going to pull up this study here. All right, so I love this study. Um, this is from a peer reviewed. You can't get better than that. PLOS, peer reviewed journal. I've highlighted some points. This is super extensive, super long. If anyone wants this, let me know. I can send it over to you. Just send me a message, a direct message, an email. Or my website is vitoswellness.com. That's VITOSWELLNESS.com, vitoswellness.com. You could shoot me a message from there. I can send this to you as well. All right. So, safety, health improvement, and well being during a 4 to 21 day fasting period in an observational study, including 1,422 subjects. That's a lot of people for a study, right? So, this was taking place in Germany. Let me get these highlights here. So, the introduction results show that lifespan and health span are prolonged in several animal models by fasting, and that parameters of age-related diseases are improved in humans. Fasting leads to pronounced metabolic changes. And then and this is one of the reasons why they got into this, and they're proposing, what they're going to see and what they want to see out of this. So fasting seems to modify the intestinal microbiome, and this is a big part of the phases in my program. So when anyone's changing their dietary regimen, the GI and the gut are going to go through all types of changes, microbiome, metabolic changes, and therefore sometimes there is levels of, minimal side effects, bloating, et cetera, et cetera. And a lot of these can be healthy, phases, healthy side effects. And then eventually, when the switch occurs metabolically and the microbiome is restored on a different level, then all that goes away. So sometimes the healing, kind of like pouring hydrogen peroxide on a dirty wound. What happens? It fizzes, it burns a little bit. Doesn't mean that's a bad thing. It means the healing process is occurring. It also leads to changes in the intestinal mucosa walls in rats, and to pronounce neuroendocrine adaptation process. So incredible for brain support, endocrine support, adaptation. Fasting has been found to activate stem cells and multiple system regeneration in the refeeding period. So it's quite fascinating. It's kind of like the fasting is revving up, revving up, revving up the autophagy, revving up the stem cells, and revving up new generation of cells, but not going to release them and activate them until the refeeding period. And then boom. So the more successful the fasting is, the longer the fasting, as we'll see in the study, the more substantial those processes will occur as well. And I'm sure there's an endpoint to that as well. And we haven't seen any definitive studies of what that ultimate endpoint is, but we know that we can fast for a longer period of time or extended periods of time, up to 21 days, and see more and more and more and more benefits, especially depending on the person as well. It also increased the mitochondrial biogenesis in neurons and other body cells. Guys, the mitochondrial part of the cell, ATP, adenosine production, that's where it all is. When we get to the smaller molecular parts of the body, that's where the true health is. We're trying to optimize those functions as much as possible. Long periods of fasting lasted several days to several weeks in this study. They were physiologic during seasons of low sun exposure, are still part of the life of most animals, as well as of humans living without food conservation technology. So this was pointing at, hey, listen, long fasting periods are something that have always been very naturalistic with animals and humans and the environment and our climate, so everything relating to we're just mimicking what we're supposed to be doing as well. Fasting periods with various patterns are found in most religions. For instance, Ramadan intermittent fasting was linked with improvements in cardiometabolic risk factors. Furthermore, morbid obesity and associated diseases were treated in the 1960s with long periods of fasting that were termed the zero-calorie diet. A medical program of periodic fasting developed by the German physician Otto Buchinger, which we just went through, was used to treat obesity and metabolic and inflammatory pathologies, as well known in Central Europe. The therapeutic effects of Buchinger periodic fast are documenting in small studies on overweight, blood pressure, metabolic syndrome, fibromyalgia, chronic pain syndromes, and the enhancement of quality of life. I love this study and how they honed in on the data and charts of emotional well-being and physical well-being. The effects of repeated cycles of Buchinger fasting have also been reported. In the present observational study, so now they're talking about this study, we documented prospectively the safety, general health related outcomes and well-being of 1,422 subjects. That's a lot of people, guys. They fasted for periods between 4 to 21 days under medical supervision, according to the Buchinger fasting program, as described in peer-reviewed guidelines. You can't get better than that. The fasting took place in a specialized facility in therapeutic fasting in Germany. All right, let's see. Oh yeah, so I want to bring you down to that emotional well-being. And here's all the data. They list it incredibly. If you're one of those people you really want to dive into this, again, I'll send this to you. Let me know. It's pretty incredible. So here is the chart relating to emotional well-being, physical well-being. So well-being, baseline values of emotional well-being, physical well-being were lower in the groups that fasted long, which means like they had a low a baseline, when they started, which means they responded. Their emotional well-being was low. It wasn't too good. Their physical well-being was low. It wasn't too good. Those who fasted longer, okay, it got better and better and better and better. They had lower emotional physical self ratings at baseline than the ones who selected shorter periods of fast. The emotional well-being as well as physical physical well-being were both significantly enhanced in the course of the fasting. There is no difference between genders for those parameters. So a lot of you out there, especially females, I get a lot of females ask me, "Hey, I hear about that fasting is just not good for women." That is so false. There is so much misconception and misinformation out there. We have a significant a journal, the New England Journal of Medicine, the Journal of Sports Medicine. It's done peer-reviewed studies, and as a matter of fact, women are more built to be fasting. They're the childbearing. They're meant to go without food because they are childbearing. They're meant to use and utilize more body fat on them, which is why women are supposed to carry a little bit more body fat too. It's undeniable at this point. All groups reach similar increased values of well-being at the end of their stay. So let's see here. All right, so I'll bring you down to the conclusion. Again, all the data is there to really analyze. Incredible study. And then we get to, let's see if I make sure I didn't miss. I love how they have all this liver function. You got your enzymes, liver enzymes, fatty liver issues, all the inflammatory biomarkers are in here: renal function, uric acid, your kidneys, creatinine levels, the electrolytes, how they're stabilizing. That's one of the issues with long-term fasting. And, if you really, really want to read this, you'll see that each person had to be monitored, which is why my clients, it's constant monitoring, assessing the symptoms that are occurring, et cetera. And, when done right in the right formulations, it's all, you're feeling good, and it's safe. Discussion. So the present prospective observational study systemically investigated for the first time the effects of long periods of Buchinger fasting within a specialized clinic in a cohort of 1,422 subjects. The results showed that this type of fasting from 4 to 21 days is safe and well tolerated. Furthermore, it led to an enhancement of emotional and physical well-being and improvement of relevant cardiovascular risk factors and subjective health complaints. Incredible. We should all be doing this. This can make life so much easier for so many people. And yet I get it. I love food, just as much as the next person. I really enjoy it, but I love health. I enjoy feeling really good. And I know what it's like not to feel good. And I never want to go back there. So, it's one of those things you do it once. And just like my clients, you do this extended fasting once, it's easier to go back to it. It's easier. You've done it. All the concerns and fears, et cetera, of not being without food, they go away. They go away. You face those fears. I'm a big proponent of that. You overcome it, and then boom, it's no longer an obstacle. You've done it. And then you just feel so good. You feel the benefits of it, of the especially extended fast. And I'm not talking about 36-hour, which has its benefits, or even 72-hour. Okay. This is prolonged fasting. Certain shifts occur, especially around 3 to 5 days, where you feel different mentally, emotionally, physically. And that is very addictive when it happens. And once it happens, you're going to be doing it again at some point in your life. And the longer you do it, the easier it is to abstain from food, cravings, hunger, etc. As we'll see here, I think, in some of the marks. So let's see here. Fasting resulted as expected in marked weight loss, obviously, with reduction of abdominal circumference. Obviously, most of us want to lose the belly fat, which was more pronounced in the groups who fasted longer. Makes sense. Thus, it can be assumed that preferentially visceral adipose tissue was reduced with weight loss. Of course, of note, no particular rebound in weight gain has been shown after repeated cycles of Buchinger fasting in a previous study. You do it, you're able to sustain. You're optimizing these bodily systems, these 11 major organ bodily systems, right? So you're revved up, your metabolics are better, you're healthier. Blood pressure showed a significant decrease in those who were high blood pressure, whereby means value did not fall below the lower normal range, indicating a floor effect. Boom, it's a reset button for those who have high blood pressure. Think about that. That's incredible, right? Whew. You don't even go low blood pressure. We further found decreases in blood lipid levels following the fasting periods. Following the fasting periods, meaning if you've got high cholesterol and you just started refeeding, your lipid levels still stayed low. Again, a reset button. All right, let's see. What was it? I think there was one more thing here. Oh, in conclusion, this 1-year observational study demonstrates the safety of a periodic Buchinger fast of between 4 and 21 days, as well as its beneficial effects on health and well-being. Periodic fasting led to marked weight loss improvements in several cardiovascular risk factors such as overweight, abdominal circumference, and blood pressure. It was accompanied by normalization of numerous blood parameters and led to pronounced improvement of the major health complaint in most participants. I love that statement because that hones in on the customization. Every person came in there with a different type of ailment, health condition, but they all got improved. They all got improved no matter what it was. Importantly, periodic Buchinger fasting was not linked to relevant perception of hunger. On the contrary, it was subjectively experienced as enjoyable, which is an important factor for compliance. So these people didn't necessarily go through extreme hunger pains, right? So I'm sure there was some in the beginning stages, but as they went longer and longer, it became more enjoyable. Those hunger pains go away. As a matter of fact, most hunger does. It's a very fascinating thing. If you haven't done an extended fast, I tell all my clients and I tell everyone, we don't know how good we can feel until we get there, until you've done it, until you've had the right formulation, until you've practiced it, until you've gone through these protocols. And once you get there, it's an incredible thing. There's usually no turning back at that point. You're on the other side of the rainbow, so to speak. So that was my podcast on extended long fast. Comment below, hit the like button, subscribe, and let me know in the comments below what you'd like to hear about next. All types of methodology, sciences. If you'd like to hear more about extended fasting, let me know. All right, Vito signing off. Take care.